Yes, and this is James Moore. Welcome to KRUU, solar-powered radio here in Fairfield, Iowa, broadcasting from the Cultural District. Must be city business time. I recognize that music, and I see Jason sitting here in the place, FMC in the house as well. Michael Halley, 4th City Council person, joining us for an update on what's going down City Council-wise, and I hear there's some cool developments. I just want to remind you can catch City Business each Tuesday following the Monday City Council session at 12:30, and then Thursday 6:30 p.m. and the following Monday 6:30 a.m. And we are introducing this week another new program, and that is Mental Health Matters with Dr. Scott Terry and Rob Hubler talking about it's a half-hour program talking about mental health issues, and they've really spearheaded a great suicide prevention and awareness campaign. We're excited to have them joining the team. Plus, Sonia Vera is back in the house Mondays at 7 p.m. for La Hora Latina, followed by Gilberto, who took over for her, has moved to Spain, and is now standing in his show, Ambiente Latino. So we have 2 hours back-to-back Mondays now with Spanish or Hispanic programming. But that is another time because we're here right now. Michael Halley, how are you doing today, sir?
Good. Glad to be here as always.
Good to see you. So what's happening City Hall-wise?
All right. This will be a review of our regular council meeting for September 22nd, 2014. Again, not a long agenda. We have a one-page agenda. I think everyone gets a little excited. We're thinking, could we do this in under an hour? The answer was no. It was about an hour and a half or a little more. Sometimes it's deceiving that way. In our consent agenda, we approved minutes of our last meetings. It's rather boring, but we did approve a liquor license. I just want to mention for hopefully soon to be opening new business in town called the Cider House.
Yes. Did they paint that place black, or was that an undercoating for something else?
I have no idea. It's kind of a charcoalish color, but
okay.
Yeah. It's the old barbershop there right south of the fire department.
It's been fun watching the crew working on this whole thing. It's been quite a colorful crew of Clint, of course, Stevenson, and one of our former show hosts here. Speaking of colorful people, Cole Fishback and others putting this thing together. Pretty exciting.
So it'll be, my understanding of what it's going to be is local hard cider that they're going to brew right there on the spot using fruit from a local orchard. So apple and maybe pear. I don't know. I'm not a hard cider expert, so I don't know. But I'm just letting you know that we approved their liquor license. So
well, that's great. I heard whether this is true or not, because this is grapevine stuff. But I heard something about burgers, kind of. I was going to say vintage, not
American food kind of thing.
Yeah, but what do you call the high end part of? It's not vintage. That doesn't work well with
vintage food.
No,
not
with
not.
meat. But sort of
gourmet.
Yeah, sort of a bit more in that vein.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I also hear interestingly enough, at the Orpheum Theater, that sort of gourmet hot dog thing is happening with different types of beer too. And
heard that as well. I thought that was an oxymoron when I first heard it.
But by the way, there's going to be vegan and a vegetarian along with the whole range. So, this is Fairfield, folks.
Yeah. Well, it's good. And, there was some sad news that we thought we were losing Istanbul Grill, but we're not losing them. They're reopening in October.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So this is not really city news, but it's community news.
Really,
it's
all
right.
No, it must be lunchtime. I'm starving. So, and I also heard Burning Oak might be thinking about staying around or something.
That'd be great, yeah.
So
and maybe somebody will buy Top of the Rock and keep that one open.
Red Rock auction coming up, right?
Yeah, so, if you want to have some friends or interested in going into the restaurant/bar business.
There you go. By the way, speaking of people who are interested in city business, Michael, what else?
Oh, all right.
I'm guilty of that one.
All right. We had a couple public appearances. First was Lori Applegate. She works for Alliant Energy, and she gave an annual report that just talked about different contributions they make to our community and through grants and such. But I think that the take-home message that was very interesting was while the Hometown Rewards program, which was a program that Alliant Energy partnered with the city of Fairfield to to produce was basically aimed at energy efficiency or energy reduction. While that ended in 2012, this was an annual report for 2013. We still had many, many businesses taking advantage of the rebates that Alliant offers for energy efficiency appliances, insulation, that kind of thing, and also solar panel rebates. The thing about the solar panel rebates, unfortunately, is this is the last year that Alliant is going to have them, at least well, they know they're not going to have them 2015, but I hope they'll see the light, no pun intended, and bring them back, because those incentives are important for the growing, expanding solar panel industry.
But let me just ask, so you're saying that they are still going for this year, but it looks like starting next year,
2015.
In other words, for people that are thinking about this type of thing,
yep,
it's
good
probably
time.
a good time to think about it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just great to see that our community is so involved in this kind of things, even after our big push and publicity. We had actual funds to put on workshops and do publicity for Hometown Awards, and even after we didn't have that any longer, people were still engaged. So that just shows that we do have what we call a culture of sustainability here in Fairfield, where people do value these kind of things. We also heard from Adam Plaguey from Fairfield Economic Development Association, FEDA. He and Anna Bruin, who works at FEDA part-time, are working very hard on the housing issue. So
She just did her first triathlon. I saw it in Facebook.
Yeah, it must be true then. Good job, Anna. First, hopefully not last. Those are a lot of fun. So there was an opportunity for a grant. It's a CDBG, community. Oh man!
Did you see CBGBs? That's in New York.
It's like the Bee Gees. Hey, here it is.
By the way,
Community Development Block Grant.
Say it again.
Community Development Block Grant.
Okay.
All right. So this one's specifically for low to moderate income neighborhoods. So what? I think the city has done this before, but you pick a neighborhood, and I guess a neighborhood is maybe 10 or more homes in the same vicinity, where the income they have to be owner occupied, so the owners of the homes live there. Their income is at a certain level. It's considered moderate, and each home can then get about $5,000 of a forgivable loan to do home repairs or upgrades or whatnot. So this has been done before here in Fairfield. It was very successful. We have to get this grant application in by December if we're going to do it. So now it's a matter of looking around. He kind of charged each council member. You call me the fourth council member. I'm not really the fourth. I'm the fourth ward, to be specific. So the city's broken up in these 5 wards, and each council member to look within their ward for potential neighborhoods that would fit this criteria. So more on that as it unfolds, but he just wanted to, basically charge.
Do people do anything to let you know about that, or is it something that's coming from the council looking out?
Well, we're going to have to put the word out to try to locate these areas.
Right.
I mean,
and that's what we're doing right now.
Yep.
So
that's the first heads up. If you're interested, contact City Hall, 472-6193.
6193.
Yep.
By
I
the
don't
way,
think I've ever given their number out before.
Isn't that funny? And also, there's the website, of course.
Yeah.
Which is simply
City of Fairfield.
Iowa.
Thank you. Iowa.com.
There you go.
I forgot what state we're in. No, I didn't. I was just making sure I was right.
It's a .com or .org?
I'm pretty sure it's a .com.
Well, you know what? There's that thing called Google right next to up in the cloud there or something.
Yeah.
And if you just type City of Fairfield, Iowa, it'll come up too.
It'll come up.
And by the way, we are speaking with Michael Halley, and this is James Moore. We are in a session of city business, right? City business right here at KRUU's very own cultural flagship solar mission control central. Where, by the way, Michael Halley has a regular show Fridays. We don't say that enough either.
True, I do.
With his buddy Matt Molyneux. Coming up on our 8th anniversary, we're going to be starting our 9th year of broadcasting really soon. So anyway, back to City Haps.
We had a few resolutions and action items. We accepted the 2nd Street project is final, so if you've driven on 2nd Street from Burlington, north of a couple blocks, it's so smooth, so nice. So that was something we were able to get done.
Excellent.
Yeah. one street at a time. You got to identify the ones you can afford to do and the higher priorities. But we're working on it. Interstate Power and Light Company, which is, I think, the parent company of Alliant, just wanted some easements for their power lines over a few city properties. And then apparently there were some neighbors who live in the same block as City Hall who also had a request for an easement. And I was approached after the meeting, and one of the citizens said, aren't you concerned about the EMF radiation? I said, well, these aren't residences, and a lot of them aren't even, it's a parking lot, for example. There's no one living there. But I could see if they lived in a home and the utility said, we want to run some high energy power lines by your house. Is that cool with you? You might have some concerns. So it's nothing the city has any jurisdiction on. It's basically between the power company and the citizens. But I think they would, might want to stand their ground and say, if you could not run those by here, that would be better. But this is life, everyone wants something from somebody.
Yeah, and so where's that left now?
Oh, for the city, we passed it just because we had our lawyer change some of the terminology. He remembers in the years past, utility company coming in and topping trees. They topped pine trees. So pine trees have that shape, and when you top it, it looks ridiculous. I mean, if you top any tree, that's a very bad practice. It basically shortens the lifespan of the tree. So we actually, in the new tree ordinance, banned topping, but I was reminded by Alliant Energy, we have our own agreement with the city, and we're allowed to trim trees under our guidelines, which does allow it. So it's one of those things where who's got the authority, but our city attorney went ahead and put in this that they can't cut any trees without consulting us.
Gotcha.
At least in these areas.
And speaking of trees, you might have been, if you listen to KRUU, an interview with Laura Wagner, who's the coordinator for the Forest Bureau's outreach for trees, going to be in town next week for those that want to, I think, to the fairgrounds, yes, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's next Thursday, but they're offering a number of, I guess they do this around the state, for the devastation. We learned, as you said, Michael, 31% of the trees in Fairfield maple, and they kind of recommend not having more than 10 or 12% of any species because maple are subject to, on the East Coast, some disruption and all that. So it's just an opportunity. That interview will be airing a few more times, and but also connected with Alliant, and Alliant was a good partner as well with the station for the energy efficiency thing, and all together, right, makes a difference.
Yep, everyone chipping in. We also accepted. Sorry, someone wrote on the agenda expecting instead of accepting, but we accepted an agreement with Patrick Callahan. He will be the guy, and his company will be the ones we chose to do the search for the new city administrator. We actually had a special council meeting September 17th between our regular council meetings just to discuss the 3 potential search companies that we heard from, and we all went with Patrick. We felt that he had the best experience. He's worked in Iowa. He knows all the players, and his price was good, which can't be
Well, I was thinking with FMC in the house here, the media center, we could do a search. We could do like a TV show, city administrator. Kind
of like a reality show or like not a pageant, but
like X Factor, except it's sort of been an XY Factor. But at any rate,
all right, we're going to get it right this time.
Well, good, yeah, and that's so. The process there is that then a recommendation will come down, and that's the next level.
Well, first he'll come and meet with the city council and the mayor, and then he's going to meet with us individually, and then all the department heads in the city. Those are the people who really would work with this individual the most, and I think he wants to get some public input as well from some of the players from other organizations that would also work with our city administrator a lot. Then put together a profile, put it out, accept applications, whittle down the applications to like maybe the top 12, have the council look at those, boil that down to maybe 5 or 6 to do phone calls with, and then 3 or 4 to have come to town for live interviews and such.
Excellent.
So that whole process will take a few months, and we should have somebody ready around the new year.
Great. That sounds good. It's an important position.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, though. In my almost 5 years being on the city council, a lot of that time has been without an administrator. I remember when I first got on, we didn't have one, and then we had one, then we didn't, and we had one, now we don't. And so I'm kind of, in a way, I had learned to do things myself, and so a lot of the city administrators just let me do that. They don't seem to mind like a little bit overactive or super active council member doing things, which is good. I'm glad they allow me to. Like, no, none of them came in and took in the projects I was working on and said, okay, I'm the administrator, give me those projects. They said, yo, you've gone this far with it, why don't you finish it up? Like the quiet zone, I remember,
right,
allowing to finish that. So to me, it's great to have them, but in the sense when we don't, it doesn't stop the projects we're working on. The council and the mayor, we all just, and the city clerk especially, step up to the plate and fill that role. But if we had someone in there who was very dynamic and very knowledgeable and worked great with other people, that would just, it would just make our efficiency and the amount that we can get done just explode. So yes, I'm very excited to find somebody for that position.
Great.
Moving on, the city attorney, he had 2 reports. One was just about the old nursing home, the Nelson nursing home, that we heard from potential developers. They bought the building, they talked about turning it into apartments, and they needed to rezone it. And it was basically this months-long debate, and the neighbors didn't want it. And it was just very time-consuming and such. And then they decided recently, the developers, that they can't afford to do it, at least not without some government assistance, so they're going to tear down the building. So we had made an agreement, well, we'll rezone this from R2 to R3 to allow you to do this development, only if you do the development the way that we have agreed to. So by tearing down the building, that ends that agreement, so we just need to make sure that we get it through our ordinances to revert that property to what it was, which was R2. It's basically just a formality, but it also sets the minds of the neighbors at ease that R3 allows for more things to be done there. And if they tried to sell the property as R3, then somebody might buy it thinking they can do something that they really need to go through the process.
Wow, what an interesting development.
Yep.
I guess that's what business is all about.
Yeah, if you can, it didn't make sense financially to go for it. I think they were hoping to get some potential federal assistance in that, and it didn't pan out, so they want to take the building down. This is actually kind of related to the zoning issue. Tenco, the firm out of Ottumwa that deals with mental health issues, had purchased the home on East Burlington for a crisis home. And they went ahead and bought it and started renovating it, but they never came to the city's zoning board to find out if the use they wanted to use it for in that neighborhood fits our code. So we asked them to. Well, instead of coming to the board, they had their lawyer write our lawyer a letter, and he shared that letter with the council member. And it reminded me of, like the gorillas will thump their chest at each other. So the lawyers, he dropped the D word, discrimination. He said, you're discriminating against us, and that's illegal. And our lawyer wrote back, we are absolutely not discriminating. We are asking you to follow the process that every property in our town follows, to just come to our zoning board and make sure that the property, the use of the property fits the zoning. And that also is part of due process, because when that meeting occurs, all the neighbors within a certain diameter of that property are invited to attend, to ask questions, and basically become part of the dialogue. So we haven't heard back yet, but we're hoping that they come to the table in a friendly way, that we're not discriminating. We're not saying no. We're saying, please follow the process that we've set in place that everyone follows. It's not discrimination. We're asking you just to follow the rules that everyone else follows. So hopefully they won't make an issue of it, but lawyers, it's interesting. It's an interesting world.
Well, if people didn't make issues, there'd be no lawyers. Wait.
What kind of world would that be?
That would be a world without lawyers.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
Enough said.
No. So that's interesting. So that's just moved to that point, and we'll hear more. Obviously, it'll continue to develop because they're interested in making a property and figuring out what that is. And that's one thing about city business that I love. People get to see sort of the inner parts, how they collide, where they go, what people do, what you can do, what's expected, ways to do things. So that's what I hope it's one of the advantages of listeners tuning in, not only to catch up what's happening, but also how it works. Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, and to let people know that they do have a voice. If you're in a neighborhood and something's happening and you're concerned about it, there is a process. It's disappointing that the response we got, instead of being sure, we'll come, when do you want to do the zoning meeting, was to have the lawyer write something that claims we're discriminating. So hopefully that'll be set aside and they'll move forward on the standard procedure. All right, we had a couple of committee reports. They were really pretty boring, to be honest. There was no action taken, so I'll just talk about the one that was interesting and action was taken on. Recreational Facilities Task Force, the new gym. Let's just talk about the project. It's both an outdoor pool and an indoor gym. The outdoor pool.
I saw a big hole.
Big hole. You saw that? Yeah. So Werner Elmker, who takes a lot of pictures and videos for the Parks and Rec, he actually said it was a panoramic. He had to use 4 photos and blend them together. But he took a picture this morning. You can find it on the City of Fairfield government Facebook page, as well as the Fairfield Parks and Rec Facebook page and other places online. But yeah, it shows the hole they're digging for the pool, and it's exciting to see the dirt getting moved. Well, the reason that project is actually under construction is because the design was approved months ago, so that construction documents could be made, bids could be let, a construction company could be chosen, and that's how it moves forward. The gym was put on hold until the CAT grant came back that we had it, and now they're very close to finalizing all the funds for that. So now we're trying to finalize the design, and task force met last week to discuss a few points that the designers needed to know about in order to design the building. They need to know what the flooring was going to be in the gym. They need to know exactly where basketball hoops were going to go, restrooms, offices, just a few things that were holding them up from going to the next level of design. It's the level right before construction document. So it's basically the final design phase is what they're moving on. As with any city project, the group that's working on it makes recommendations and the council approves, since we're the ones who are ultimately liable in a sense for these. So I'm the liaison with that board, so I got to be at both meetings. So the decisions were made to add certain restrooms, just to accommodate state law of a certain number of restrooms per the occupancy that you're expecting. It adds a certain expense, but it's just got to be done. Offices decided not to do a permanent concession stand in the gym. There's going to be one at the pool, but we figured for meets and such, you can just put out tables and sell your wares that way. And then the flooring decision was, instead of going with two of the 3 courts being wood and one being a synthetic material, all of them being a synthetic material. And the reason is that they cost about the same to put down, but the synthetic is a lot cheaper to maintain. Essentially, over time, if you want, you can re-pour the top layer, and that's much less expensive than sanding and refinishing the wood. So although the wood has a nostalgic sound and feel.
It sure does.
I mean,
Padoom, padoom.
Yep. When you're bouncing a basketball on wood, it echoes quite a bit. Going with the synthetic will allow for more multi-use.
And you would think, actually, that the wood is a little gentler on ankles and knees and stuff, but I think the new synthetic stuff is probably very similar.
Yeah, they make it the same.
In a way.
Yeah.
But aesthetically, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
The old folks that...
I know. I was looking forward to some wood, but...
It's like going to a church almost in a weird way when that wood is there, but it does chip and over time whatnot.
Well, I played basketball both at the MUM Rec Center, which is synthetic, and the field house, which is wood. And between the two, they're pretty similar in terms of the give, and then they call it the coefficient, the friction coefficient. It's got to be grippy enough, but not overly grippy. Right. And the synthetic is made to match that of a wood floor, so that it's a very similar experience. And then we added a few side basketball hoops, and actually found a donor who was interested in paying for some of that. So we're trying not to add things, that change orders are what really make a project jump in price when you start changing things along the way. I'm not going to mention a particular building downtown that had that problem, convention center, but I will say we're not going to follow that route. We're going to make a decision how much we have to expend and stick to it, and no change orders. So that's why we're doing this now in the pre-design phase.
So you're saying no change we can believe in?
Exactly.
Excellent.
All right. So we approved the flooring, we approved the side basketball hoops, and we approved the offices and restrooms. So designers are now good to go. They'll get their final design. They'll pass that through one more task force meeting, one more council meeting, make sure everything is there, that we advertise to donors. We have to basically also meet state laws. Everything has to be as much as we can afford. Just like with the pool, what happened was when we went out to bid, the bids came in lower than expected, and so we were able to add in all the wants that we had as kind of set aside. Well, if we can afford these, we'll do them, but if we can't, we'll put them off. We put them all back in. So hopefully we'll be able to do that with the gym. Anything that was a want but not a need, if the bids come in low enough, we can get them all in there.
It sounds like a couple's session here. Wants, needs. If I can't, sorry.
Have you done that before? I've done that before.
I haven't. I probably should.
All right, I could share some, compare notes sometime.
With my different personalities. Have you met? No, have you? Who's interrupting? Okay.
All right, I know we only have a couple minutes.
We do. We have less than a couple minutes, but I do want to just remind listeners, this is city business. We're a little looser than usual, but that's not that unusual. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, you can catch this Thursday, 6:30 p.m., also the following Monday, 6:30 a.m. We like to say dinner or breakfast or lunch with the city, and a way just to keep your nose in what's happening at City Hall and what's coming up and so forth. So, yep, what's our final roster bits?
Well, we have Melanie Carlson from French Rent-A-Car is also filling in for some of the administrative roles. Always does a project update at the end. She's saying that sanitary sewer project step 1 and 2 are moving forward. The O.B. Nelson Skate Park, the construction guys are there, starting to turn dirt, so that should be done in, I think, within 5 or 6 weeks.
All right.
12th and Burlington intersection, if you've driven out there by Hy-Vee, O'Reilly's, Pizza Ranch, is being built up with these color-integrated crosswalks with pedestrian lights and all this. That should be done next week.
Good. It's a bit of a trafficked area for sure.
Yeah, we want to do something very similar around 9th and Burlington because with the new pool.
By the way, any word on what's happening with Ross with the No, that's a private thing.
Yeah, it's a private. Yeah, he hasn't put it up for sale or anything, so it's just going to sit there.
It sure looks nice as an open space, but I mean,
I know, doesn't it? That's all sun in there. And then the downtown facade project is also moving forward. The designers, the architects are meeting with the property owners over like last week and this week to finalize the improvements that will be made there. And the last thing is, if you haven't signed up and done a personal pledge for the Blue Zones project, now's the time. We're doing one final push to finish that project in the next month or two.
Great. And what do people do? Go to website?
You can go to Blue Zones Project.com.
Cool. Blue Zones Project.
Find me or Ed Malloy or somebody who has pledge sheets you can fill out.
So what you're saying is, if you're feeling blue, go see the neighbor or the mayor.
He is your neighbor.
Who is your neighbor? And I got just enough time to put up the music here, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't go changing to try to please me. I love you just the way you are. And remember, only you can prevent porous fiber. Don't forget, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And don't forget, fall fell.